Having low consideration except for the first ascents, the 7,200 meter mountains could be the new frontier of mountaineering and high altitude tourism. Let's see their pros and cons. For pro mountaineers, having climbed all 8,200 peaks both in winter and summer, except for some very difficult routes still to be explored, there is not much left. Here, then, the 7,200s, mostly climbed in spring and on a few occasions, many of which still virgin in winter, could open up new horizons in professional climbing. But also for all the other tourist mountaineers, 7,200s enjoy different advantages compared to an 8,200. Let's see what the advantages are. Costs. Climbing permits are significantly lower. If to climb Everest, today you need a permit that costs $11,000 per person and $7,000 for K2. For the others 8,200s, price is around $2,000 in high season in Nepal. For the 7,200s, until they are massively climbed, they will enjoy a current maximum permit of about $600, always in high season. Values that halve in autumn and drop to $150 in winter. In China, prices are similar, while in Pakistan, even lower. But currently there are no relief efforts and organizations like the most exploited Nepal, even if they are in constant tourist growth. 7,000 meters, often a few tenths of meter high less than a 8,200, so the height is almost similar. Being less noble than the usual high season mountains such as Everest, Choyo, Manaslu, Amadad Blanc, etc., it's more difficult to meet queues along the more technical sessions. Now let's see the cons. Fame. Let's face it, a 7,200 is not famous as climbing an 8,200, or rather of all, the Everest. Being labeled for climbing Everest is priceless. You will be remembered for this feat by acquaintances, relatives and friends for a lifetime. But for those who do not follow adventure fashions or popular label, a 7,200 is an equally certification. Sometimes, but not always, around a 7,200 there is less tourist attention. Fewer people means more peace of mind, but also less risk in case of need. When you think about a 7,200, perhaps you make the mistake of cataloging it lower and therefore more feasible. In fact, most of the 7,200s are very technical and more difficult peaks than Everest. It's necessary to select well the mountain to climb according to one's abilities. In this video, I have selected some mountains of 7,200 meters that are certainly interesting, even for the high altitude tourists. Some are more difficult than others, but they offer advantages that we are going to see. Let's see them in order of difficulty. Aconcagua. Aconcagua does not reach 7,200 meters. It stops a few meters below. However, we can consider it as 7,200 meters for the importance of the mountain, the highest peak of the two Americas. The climb looks like a high-altitude trek, which can be proposed to anyone who is fit. However, the summit should not be underestimated. It's still a climb to an altitude of nearly 7 kilometers, with all the problems of the high altitude. Lenin Peak. This mountain, for some years, has been a fixed destination for climbers who want to climb a height, but don't feel able to trudge on ice walls or go beyond 8,200 meters. Lenin Peak is an ideal starting line, on the border between Tajikistan and Kyrgyzstan, and is the second highest point of both countries. It's considered one of the 7,000 less technical in the world to climb, and has by far the most ascent of any other 7,000, with hundreds of climbers climbing it every year. However, it's slightly more dangerous than Aconcagua, being abundant in snow, which causes avalanches and crevasses. Spantic. Another mountain with similar characteristics to the Lenin Peak is the Spantic in Pakistan Karakoram. It reaches 7,000 meters and is very popular with organized commercial expeditions due to its relative ease of ascent and the scarcity of objective dangers. The northwest face, on the other hand, has an exceptionally hard climbing route, known as the Golden Pillar. Muzdak Hata. It's another of the relatively easier 7,000 peaks to climb, due to its gentle western slope and the relatively drier climate of the Chinese region. It still requires a few acclimatization period and a very training physical condition for success at the summit. In fact, it rises to over 7,600 meters. Having a slope without too many problems, sky mountaineering is very popular. Tirchmir. Tirchmir is the highest mountain in the Hindu-Kush chain and has an important curiosity, being the highest mountain in the world outside the Himalayas Karakoram. If the 8,000 Pakistan are in fact to the northeast of Pakistan, this peak is to the northwest, and this makes it a little more isolated from the classical peaks on the eastern Karakoram, Kechu, Gajenbrus, and a myriad of other 7,000s, all positioned side by side. The Tirchmir has a couple of fairly simple routes with a little slope, a little blocked by glaciers that descend to the valley. Pumori. Pumori is a mountain on the border of Nepal and China, and is located just 8 kilometers west of Mount Everest. Pumori means the daughter of the mountain in the Sherpa language. Pumori is today a popular climbing destination. The reason is simple. It's located a few steps from the Everest base camp, with which it shares logistic, rescue and service. At the side of the mountain there is Kalapatar, at a height of 5,600 meters. The highest point reachable with the trekking shoes, a destination for hikers who from there will see Mount Everest very near. Pumori reaches over 7,000 meters, and from the top, Everest still appears a giant. The actual climb begins at an altitude of 6,000 meters, so it does not have long climbs. However, it remains quite steep in the last section, and fixed ropes are needed. Avalanches and the collapses of seracs are common. Now we see other 7,000s, a little more complicated. Muzdak Tower. There is nothing to say. This is one of the most beautiful mountains in the world. The Muzdak Tower is shortly after the entrance to the Baltoro Glacier, the road that leads to the K2 and the other 8,000s of Karakoram. Its shape is very recognizable, reminiscent of a woman with a baby in her arms, or from another position, a huge tomb of the giant. Needless to say, most of the words are out of the question for the beginners. Indeed, those who succeeded earned them a pilot door. This should make use reflect on the commitment it takes to climb. However, a couple of roads are less difficult. Himalchuli. The Himalchuli is the 18th highest mountain in the world, and is located in Nepal near Manaslu, of which is a part. Another very close peak is the Ngadichuli, a few meters lower. The mountain presents a medium mountaineering difficulties, but it begins to be challenging as regards the altitude, almost 7,900 meters. In practice, we are in the middle of the death zone. From the top, you can enjoy a breathtaking view, facing the Nepalese plateau at an altitude of 6,800 meters. In practice, as if instead of the Mount Shasta, California, there was a peak of almost 8,000 meters. Nansha Barba is a mountain in the Tibetan Himalayas, in Chinese territory, and is the highest eastern peak on Earth, over 7,600 meters. It has a characteristic shape of an inverted canine tooth, which makes it unmistakable. The mountain is not easy to climb. However, local tourism is growing strongly, as are the guides who take you to the top. From 7,780 meters, you can enjoy a breathtaking view, projecting for hundreds of kilometers towards the Chinese plains. Nuptse is a steep mountain in Nepal's Khumbu region. It is located 2 kilometers from Mount Everest. Nuptse means western peak, as is the western segment of the massif that includes Everest and Lhotse. Precisely, with its proximity to Everest, it's a very interesting peak. In fact, by spending less than a tenth of a climbing permit, it's possible to climb a mountain a stone's throw from Everest, experiencing the same atmosphere. However, the Nuptse remains a challenging 7,000. Here, Wellistek, the strong Swiss mountaineer, lost his life during a training session. The south side is very technical, with almost vertical rock and ice falls for 3 kilometers, unaffordable for tourist climbers. The only feasible route, but still hard, is the north face, which is accessed by the road that leads to Everest and Lhotse, in the Valley of Silence, where some camps are set up that lead to the three mountains. From Camp 1 or 2 of Everest, at an altitude of about 6,500 meters, continue to the right on a steeply sloping snow wall for almost 2 kilometers, up to the summit at 7,800 meters. Over 7,000 meters, it's always advisable to have an oxygen tank to avoid problems. Morrisbrix K1. Halfway between starting the Baltoro Valley and the K2, there is the Morrisbrix or K1. From the name, we can guess its majesty. It was believed to be the highest peak in Karakoram, followed by K2. With the instruments in hand, it was then established that it was not even the height. Yet, the Morrisbrix, seen from the plateau of the Baltoro at an altitude of over 3,000 meters, appears has a very high peak. 4 years obscured by the 4 8,000ers Pakistanis, found along the valley further ahead. The Morrisbrix has seen few ascents on it. Climbing it's not easy at all. It has many regular walls and ice seracs. It's certainly the most challenging among those proposed in this collection. Yet it remains today one of the most interesting mountains on Earth, still to be discovered. These are just some of the 7,000ers to consider, but the list could include at least another dozen. Subscribe to the channel and see you in the next video.